So, GitHub just dropped this really interesting open source toolkit that might completely change how we work with AI coding agents. It's called SpecKit, and it's designed to fix one of the biggest headaches in AI-assisted development today.
I mean, you've totally been there, right? You write up a prompt, the AI spits out a chunk of code, and you look at it and think, yeah, that looks about right. But then you go to run it, and nope, it doesn't compile, or it just totally misses the mark on what you were actually trying to do. Well, there's actually a name for this. It's called vibe coding. It's that feeling you get when the code has the right vibe, but it just doesn't work in reality. And here's the thing. It's not necessarily the AI's fault. The real issue is something a bit more fundamental.
And that right there, that reframes the entire problem. We've gotten so used to treating AI like a search engine, just throwing vague ideas at it. But we need to start treating it like a very, very literal-minded pair programmer. It's fantastic at spotting patterns, but it absolutely cannot read your mind.
Think about it. When you give a vague prompt like add photo sharing to my app, you're forcing the model to guess at thousands of little details you never mentioned. It'll make some decent assumptions for sure, but a lot of those guesses are going to be wrong. And that creates this huge gap between what you wanted and what you actually got.
So, this all points to needing a whole new way of working. You know, traditionally, the code is the source of truth, and we maybe write documentation for it later. Well, this spec-driven idea flips that completely on its head. You start with a detailed specification first. That spec, your intent, becomes the one source of truth that drives everything that comes after.
And this is where SpecKit comes into the picture. It's GitHub's new open-source toolkit, and it's built to make this spec-driven workflow a real practical thing. It gives you the structure, the templates, and the process you need to stop just prompting and start doing real structured development.
So how does it work? Well, at its heart, SpecKit breaks the whole process down into 4 clear phases. And each one is like a gate. You have to get it right before you can move on to the next. Let's walk through them.
First up, we have the specify phase. This is the bedrock of your entire project. And let's be clear, we're not talking about tech stacks or architecture just yet. This is all about defining the what and the why from the user's point of view.
So in this phase, you basically describe the project's goals, focusing on what a user will actually do and what a successful outcome looks like. The AI agent takes all that and generates a really detailed spec, complete with user stories and acceptance criteria. And this is super important. This spec isn't some document you write once and forget about. It's a living thing that you can update and refine as you go.
Okay, so once you've nailed down the what, it's time to figure out the how. And that all happens in phase 2, the plan phase. This is where we finally get technical and start laying out the architectural blueprint.
This is where you give the AI the lowdown on your tech stack, any constraints you have, and of course, any important rules around security or compliance. The AI then takes all of that and builds a complete technical plan that follows all your rules, making sure the code it writes will actually fit into your world.
With our what and how locked in, we move on to the tasks phase. And this part is all about deconstruction, taking that big high-level plan and chopping it up into small, bite-sized pieces of work.
The AI agent looks at both the spec and the plan and then generates a detailed checklist of actual tasks. And the real magic here is that each task is small enough that it can be built and tested all on its own. So instead of a vague task like build authentication, you get something concrete like create a user registration endpoint.
And now we get to the fun part, implementation. The spec told the AI what to build, the plan told it how, and the tasks gave it a step-by-step guide. Now it's time for the AI to roll up its sleeves and actually write the code.
And because all that work was broken down into tiny tasks, you can say goodbye to reviewing these 1,000-line code dumps where you have no idea what's going on. Instead, you're reviewing small, focused changes, which makes the whole code review process way faster, way easier, and a lot more effective.
So you might be thinking, okay, what's my job in all of this? Well, your role is to steer and verify. You're the captain of the ship. At every single one of these phases, you're the one in control. You critique what the AI generates, you find the gaps, you ask the tough questions, and you make corrections before anything goes off the rails. The AI creates, but you ensure it's right.
And honestly, this quote from GitHub just hits the nail on the head. It's a total philosophical shift. We're moving away from a world where the code is the ultimate truth to one where our intent, captured in that spec, is the source of truth. It's a really profound change in how we think about code.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but where does it really shine? Why does this matter for the work you do every single day?
Well, it turns out this approach is incredibly powerful in three main areas. For brand new projects, it makes sure the AI builds what you actually wanted from the very beginning. For adding new features to an already complex system, it forces you to be crystal clear about how everything should fit together. And for modernizing old code, you can capture the core business logic in a new spec and just let the AI rebuild it without all that technical debt.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is that SpecKit is very much an experiment. GitHub put it out there as open source for a reason. This is a new frontier, and they want the community to help figure out the best path forward. They're looking for feedback on everything, from making the workflow better to integrating it into tools we already use.
And all of this leads to a really big, fascinating question. If tools like SpecKit get good enough, it suggests our role as developers is shifting, from being writers of code to being architects of intent. As AI gets better and better at the how, our real value will be in perfectly defining the what and the why. So, what do you think that future looks like?